Well, good evening, this is Hound Dog Steve, wishing you a very pleasant evening. And Boris Johnson, as predicted, has won the leadership of the Conservative Party in England. I find it kind of interesting when I read through some of the speeches and so on and so forth, the usual schnorring that was going on, each praising each other and oh, how great it was to work under Theresa May and so on and so forth, when, you know, they were actually openly plotting against Theresa May at cabinet meetings. And Jeremy Hunt, of course, said we're in for exciting times and he looks forward to supporting Boris Johnson. And of course his full name is Alexander Boris de Pfeffel Johnson, and that should give you actually a pretty good idea of where this is all coming from. His three main promises are to deliver Brexit, to unify the country, and to beat Jeremy Corbyn, leader of the Labour Party. And at this moment that actually looks like it isn't going to be too difficult, because Jeremy Corbyn is floundering himself. The two big issues that Jeremy thought were going to go away was the anti-Semitism issue and also his very fixed position on Brexit. And they have not gone away. They've caused a rift in the party, and so the party is terribly divided. They have a splinter party that's formed of independents that have basically carved off from the Labour Party. So Jeremy Corbyn is in a lot of trouble. The one thing that might make some difference, although as I felt, you know, with many of these elections, a lot of this stuff is already pre-decided in some way, that there's so much money at stake here in the EU that leaving, as we've seen, is not going to be as easy as it was made out to be, and whether we will actually really leave in October is yet to be seen. But things do change, things do evolve in our society. We have been undergoing evolution for centuries now, and all of these things, whether they are contrived or not, are all part of that evolution. And because of the nature of social media, we're now getting to watch that evolution in real time. And so this really is an interesting counterpoint. Anyway, I am uncertain as to whether it is going to roll out. I'll show you a couple of things that I've come across that they're just little comments, but they might give you an inkling that not much is going to change, or it's going to be very much an amended Theresa May deal, which was, I mean, it just couldn't get any worse with the Theresa May deal. It was a complete capitulation. And so we will have to see how this all plays out. Anyway, let me just go over these couple of clips and we'll come back and I'll do a quick wrap up. Okie dokie, here we go. The Guardian, Boris Johnson elected new Tory leader. And there he is with his characteristic mop of blonde hair. Boris Johnson will become Britain's next Prime Minister after winning a convincing victory over Jeremy Hunt in the Conservative Party leadership race. The former Mayor of London, who has long cherished an ambition to lead his country, won 66% of the votes, 92,000 to Hunt's 46,000. Turnout was 87.4% among 159,000 party members. In a characteristically light-hearted acceptance speech, Johnson conceded that even some of his own supporters may wonder quite what they have done. He claimed the Tory party had historically demonstrated it could manage the jostling instincts in the human heart, such as those of owning a home and helping the poorest in society. Well, that's not exactly true. He reminded his audience of ministers and party staff of his campaign mantra: deliver Brexit, unite the country, and defeat Jeremy Corbyn. Saying some wag had pointed out that this spelt dud, he joked that the final E is for energize, had been left out. And I say to all doubters, dude, we are going to energize the country. And Johnson said he would get Brexit done by 31st of October with a new spirit of can do. But a little further on, right down at the bottom of the article, as per usual, and I suspect that this has a lot more importance really. He's regarded by colleagues as an impressive political campaigner, and the man with the best chance of seeing off the formidable electoral challenge from Nigel Farage's Brexit party, which beat the Tories soundly in May's European elections. But here, Johnson is likely to embark on fresh negotiations with EU leaders and key Brussels decision-makers as soon as possible, with a view to securing changes to May's deal in time for the Halloween deadline. Okay, this deal needs to be thrown out of the window. They need to leave unilaterally under WTO rules and negotiate from outside of the EU. And if Boris Johnson has to prorogue government to do that, to stop the opposition to that outcome, certainly in my mind that is the only thing that will settle this deal, is you prorogue government, you stop any opposition to the deal, and you deliver Brexit under WTO rules, and you negotiate from there on in. But with no secure majority and Labour determined to demand a referendum on any deal he brings back from Brussels, many MPs believe he could be forced to call a general election within months in order to win a mandate for his plan. And of course that could be a very interesting situation too, because there is an even chance that the Brexit party, as I said in my previous video, that when you start insulting people and calling them names, you get people's dander up, and there is certainly a lot of support, as we've seen, for the Brexit party. And this from the BBC, of course, Boris Johnson wins race, but when we go down here, Mr Johnson thanked his predecessor, saying it had been a privilege to serve in her cabinet, even though they were openly discussing getting rid of her at cabinet meetings. He was Mrs May's Foreign Secretary until resigning over Brexit. The outgoing PM, who is standing down after a revolt by Conservative MPs over her Brexit policy, congratulated her successor, promising him her full support from the backbenchers. Foreign Secretary Mr Hunt said he was very disappointed, but Mr Johnson would do a great job, and he had total unshakable confidence in our country, and that was a valuable quality at such a challenging time. And of course here we have the fear-mongering analysis by Laura Kuenzenberg. With a personality and perhaps an ego on a scale of a few of his colleagues can match, this man, who even as a child wanted to be world king, now he is the Tory king, and the Brexiteers are in court. We will have to see. We will have to see. So here we are from the EU itself. The EU Commission's Brexit negotiator, Michael Barnier, said he was looking forward to working with Mr Johnson to facilitate the ratification of the withdrawal agreement and achieve an orderly Brexit. The new Tory leader had previously said the agreement Mrs May reached with the EU was dead, having been rejected 3 times by MPs. Guy Verhofstadt, the European Parliament's chief Brexit coordinator, said the Parliament would hold an extraordinary meeting on Wednesday in response to Mr Johnson's election. Just as a bit of an aside, I found it kind of interesting too that we now have 3 very colourful leaders, whether you like them or not, across the world. Of course, Donald Trump is a very flamboyant leader, and of course the leader of the Brexit party, Nigel Farage, is also has the same kind of flamboyance, and Boris Johnson has his own unique attributes, not least of which is his blonde mop of hair. I mean, I know that's kind of lightweight stuff, but as I say, you know, it's almost like we're watching a play unfold, and there are so many things, so many dynamics taking place at the same time. It's really impossible to say what the final outcome will be at this point in time. I honestly think that the internet was an interesting accident, and it has just been such an incredible wake-up tool that it has basically put the genie out of the bottle. And it's not so easy to put that genie back in, because you can't unknow stuff. And I know that they've been trying to hide an awful lot of the truth that is coming out on the internet, either by trolling or by counter-narratives, suppression, as we've seen with Google and YouTube, that kind of stuff. But, as I say, the genie's out of the bottle, and there are 8 billion of us. And I think one of the most difficult parts of the genie to put back in the bottle is the human trafficking aspect, because I don't think that there is anything more abhorrent to the vast majority of parents than the thought of somebody taking or harming their child. The innocence that's lost is just it's too strong for any parent to condone in any way, shape or form. And that is one of the big things that has been coming out for the last 20 years or so, whether it's through the Catholic Church or in the politicians, the music industry, Hollywood. It is all coming out to the fore, and it is not very pleasant to watch. And I think that if anything is going to turn people, it's going to be things like this, because we really do need a mass waking up. Whether that will actually change things, it certainly can't hurt. It certainly can't hurt to understand that there is more going on. There are more forces at play than we are witness to. People, groups are being financed. I mean, we saw quite clearly there have been some secret videos that were leaked out, you know, that the Guy Verhofstadt was negotiating to buy out people to support a no Brexit vote. So there isn't any lengths that these people won't go to. There isn't any amount of money that they can't seem to lay their hands on to get things done. But it is coming out. And I, for one, am quite staggered, because I've never seen anything like this in my entire lifetime. When I was a child and a teenager, there was no way to get this kind of information. Even if today you have to sift through some fake news and some false leads, I would put up with that willingly than have to go back and sit in a reference library and go through book after book after book to find a small piece of evidence, a small clue as to what might really have happened. So the internet has been absolutely invaluable, and I think that it has set the whole thing akilter. And it is in these fluid moments in history, these are when the real changes take place. These are where the real changes take place. And the real change might come not through revolution, but by people simply abandoning the idea of a useless government. I mean, I'm still astounded that people are actually taking the government seriously. It has been so badly wrong for so long. Unless you've been living under a rock, you must be getting a feeling or a sense that these people really could do a much better job if they tried. And if that's the case, why aren't they paying attention? That's a good question. I'm going to leave that with you. Okay, so if you've enjoyed this video, please like, comment and subscribe below. And in the meantime, this is Hound Dog Steve signing off, wishing you a very pleasant evening, and we will talk very, very shortly. See you now. Bye.